Hello and welcome to Shei's podcast. I'm your host, Shei, aka Sheilann. Hello, how are you doing? This week's guest is Kevin Greene. He is an Irish YouTube content creator. He is from Dublin and we talk about mostly YouTube and creating and like how his popular videos went well with people and then some didn't, but we had a good crack talking about things and unexpectedly talk about musicals, which some of his viewers will be wondering what. Anyway, here is the episode and I hope you guys all enjoy. Every time. Okay. So for anyone who doesn't know who you are, introduce yourself.
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off there.
Sorry,
I'm
no,
a wee
you're
bit
fine.
nervous. My name is Kevin Greene. I am a YouTuber, former podcaster, as we were discussing before, and I make YouTube video essays on video games because that's a well that hasn't been drained of content yet, but people seem to enjoy them. Maybe people would remember me for my Bioshock video. That was pretty popular, even though I hate it. Or I think my Dark Souls video is pretty popular as well. So it's just fun little videos where I look at a thing and go, hey, this game's pretty good and you should play it because of these reasons. And so far people have been pretty jazzed on it. I think I broke 500 subs there last week, the week before, as of recording this.
518.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Because I was trying to break 500 for before my birthday, which was in September. And I think on the week up to it, I had done it, like I'd hit 500. And I tweeted that and I lost 4 subs.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, like immediate knife twist. I didn't know if people were like actively looking at my Twitter, and I don't know. That's the narcissist in me coming out and being like, "They're sabotaging me, man." But yeah, no, I think people are jazzed on it. Or like at least the people that have watched, and it's kind of interesting because I've been doing YouTube on and off now for 10 years, I want to say, and this is the thing that's kind of stuck, and it really weirdly has worked out. I don't know why. Yeah.
How did you get into YouTube?
How did I get into YouTube? Well, back when I was 16, I just had nothing to do and no money and a semi-decent mic. And I'd done a course. It was like a one-day course in transition year for... Do you remember those like really crappy like 3D like Go Animate softwares where you can make little cartoons and that?
Yeah.
Like it was bad and I was bad at them. So I was doing that for fun and fell off of it just because I'd run out of ideas over the course of like a year. And then when I was in college, so from like, I guess ages like 19 to about like 22, I had a sketch group with 3 other guys, one of whom would later go on to be in my podcast with me. And then that kind of petered out just because one of us lived in like Navan and I was working. So there was no real time to sort of get together. Like it just wasn't feasible anymore. Like, and it sucked because they were fun to do and we enjoyed doing them. It's just 1, they weren't getting an audience, and 2, it was just not happening for us. So I think it was maybe like 2-3 years ago, I was watching a ton of stuff really. There were a ton of people I was really into. Specifically, I was really into that guy High Top Films. I don't know if you've seen any of his stuff on YouTube, but he does these amazing video essays, mainly on superhero stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, that's really cool. I want to try that. And I did a video on Bioshock, and people were, it got a pretty medium response or not a medium, a pretty decent response for a channel that at the time had like 20 subs. And I remember I was working on other stuff. Like there was maybe like 9 months in between my first and second upload, just because the second video I wasn't really happy with. And I put it out. People were kind of half in, half out. Like they were like, "You're kind of too jokey in this, and it's not really there." So I went back to the drawing board. And I can't remember what my third video is off the top of my head. I think it's
Metal
Metal Gear.
Gear? Yeah.
Oh, is it? It's the Metal
Yeah.
Gear Solid one. Yeah. So
Sorry, I have
Metal-
your YouTube videos up.
Sweet, someone has the cheat sheet. I should know just off the top of my head, but I don't, sadly. So I'd done Metal Gear Solid, and I think everything kind of fell into place. And in and around the time I was doing the Outer Worlds, yeah, the Outer Worlds video, I was on, you know, that subreddit, r should I buy this game?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was on that one, and someone was looking for RPGs. Like, I want to play like an RPG. I don't know, what's good. I've played this, and that. And for some reason, I don't know why, but I wrote like maybe like an 8-paragraph like essay to this guy on like every single RPG he could currently play on a PC and why each of them were good. And that for some reason got like something like 2,000 upvotes, and this had never happened to me before. Like, usually I'd get like maybe like 1-2 max, but for some reason people were like, oh hey, this is pretty good. And someone in the thread said, hey, you should have a YouTube channel. I said I did, and overnight I went from like 20 subs to like 200.
Whoa.
Yeah, like I just linked them I want to say it was the Bioshock video. And then that one blew up and it kept on getting views, and then they trickled down into the other ones. And then I was just like, okay, I guess this is a hobby I have now. So I think that's kind of where we started to where we're at. There's a few false starts. There's, working out some issues personally through it. Like, I think I really started to hit my stride with the Metal Gear after like a breakup. Like, it was the only thing I was doing at the time. Like, I would just go home and work on the Metal Gear video. And I wasn't probably processing my emotions properly, but I was working on something I really enjoyed. So that's something, like, I'm sure you know yourself when you're working on something that isn't probably giving back as much as you might expect it to for the amount of effort you're putting into it. It can kind of suck, but then there's like some days where you work on something and you're like, this is really good and I'm actually proud of it.
Yeah. Have you ever tried streaming?
I have. I don't do it currently just because I'm in a house with like 4 other people, and with the settings I have here, I probably get like less than 20 megs a second. So it drops out. It's temperamental. I want to get into it. Like, if I were to move to my own place or to have like a wired modem, I'd really want to get into it. Like, I've tried a few times with like a few other people. And I think maybe that's what I'm missing. I kind of like to have like another voice to bounce off of. And I think that's something you get in streaming, is that there is like sort of, if you're doing it well, I should say, and you have like a chatty chat, you have like another sort of source to like bounce off of. Which is why like the streamers I kind of like, constantly engage in chat, or even the Let's Players I was into were usually like a group like Game Grumps or Funhouse, because you kind of always constantly have someone to bounce off of. And even though like what I'm doing now is kind of, for the most part, a singular, or at least looks to be a singular effort, I do want to work with people. Like, I get jazzed kind of interacting with others in a space where we're all kind of like, this game's pretty sick and here's why I like it. And I think maybe that's why the videos have taken off. I think people get a sense that I actually give a shit about what I'm talking about. And I try to, a lot of people have asked me sometimes in comments like, oh, are you going to talk about this game? And it's like, I don't want to talk about that because I either don't like it or I don't have any opinions. And I don't really like being mean about games. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really like to kind of jump on the bandwagon of this is something that sucks and here's why we're all going to hate on it.
I wouldn't give my opinion on something that I don't know of either, if it was a game.
Oh, 100%. Because then you're just going to run into like people being like, this is why you don't get it. And it's like, I'm sorry you asked. This is what like I'll give like a game like maybe 2 or 3 hours like max, and if it's not clicking with me, then I just got to admit that I don't like it. And that's not necessarily to say, and I think with games, you get a lot of people that are like super passionate about, a particular franchise or entry or whatever. And when you say I don't like this, a lot of people take that as you have bad taste in games. Whereas I'm constantly trying to come from the angle of I don't like this, but I'd like to hear about why you do rather than tell you why I don't. Um and sometimes that works. Sometimes you'd like look at something in a completely different angle to why it works and maybe why it's popular.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What
That's just
has
my two.
been your most memorable moments you remember from your first few months of uploading on YouTube?
That's a tough one. There's been a few really cool ones. I remember I did a video on Nier Automata. It was a game I'd absolutely loved, and I'd gotten into it because this artist I really like on Twitter called Helixal Alchemy, who's an Irish artist, kept tweeting about it, and it looked really cool. I was just like, this looks badass. And I remember I was just like, I'll give it a shot. Like it was on sale on Amazon one day. I got it for like maybe like 40 quid or something. So it was like 20 quid off. And it was absolutely incredible. Like it felt like something that had been made for me. And when it came time to, I want to make a video about this, I remember like, this is going to be a shot in the dark. She will probably say no. And I said, hey, do you mind if I use some of your Nier artwork in my video, and like I'll totally credit you, and I'm willing to pay any like costs for buying the art packs. And she's like, no, dude, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my God. And it was really cool. And I got to talk to her a few times, and she was just really, really nice about that sort of stuff. My GoldenEye video got retweeted by Grant Kirkhope, who was the composer for the game, which was
Oh, wow.
really, really cool. And then just, obviously breaking like 1,000 views on Bioshock was a bit weird. And then more recently it broke like 10, and I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So there's been a few, and then just other projects that may not have been, there's no outward reason why I would like them as much as I do, but there's been some stuff I've worked on and I'm like, I love everything about this. The Yakuza and the Spider-Man video specifically, I remember being like, there's nothing I don't really like about this. There's stuff I've changed on now that if I was to make them again, I'd probably change. But I remember at the time being like, this is the best. Like, I love working on this, and I love that I'm gonna have a chance to talk about it. But yeah, those have been the most memorable ones, I suppose.
What's your process on planning for your streams and socials?
That's a tough one. I think people constantly ask me, how do you make what you do? And I don't think there's any real straight line. I don't want to sound like a pretentious dickhead, but there's really not. Like sometimes you just have like a shower thought moment where you're like, oh hey, I don't think anybody's talked about this from this perspective. And then it's literally like getting pen to paper, because that's how I usually write. Like I'll usually script out all my notes, and then I'll be like, okay, there's something in here, and then it's putting it from pen to paper to keyboard and screen, and then from there it's like working out like, okay, well, how am I actually gonna make this, because I've got words now, I need pictures, and then finally going to capture the game and putting it all together on a timeline. I think the editing probably is the smoothest part because of how much planning has gone into it pre-planned. I think right now the video I'm working on is probably the messiest it's been in a while, just because it's a bit more it's pretty different what I'm working on. So it's more of a long-winded process more than anything else. And when it gets to social, it's okay, how can I apply this to, like, what Reddits does this apply to, what Discords does it apply to, how can I kind of make it stand out, but also kind of, I think that's the one thing that kind of annoys me about YouTube is the fact that a lot of the time when you try to stand out, you make it like too clickbaity. which kind of sucks because I've had that. Like, I think my Dark Souls video, if you look at the thumbnail, it looks super clickbaity, and it is entitled as well. But I think contextually, I make a point. But I have run into the issue where people are like, "Oh, you're wrong. Dark Souls doesn't need easy mode because fucking whatever." Sorry, I shouldn't curse.
No, you curse. I've been saying to everyone every episode. I should have said it
uh,
beforehand.
I don't know.
Sorry.
It's fine. I'm just trying to consciously not do it. Like, I do it. I do it a lot in my personal life, and I feel like I've tried to keep it out of my videos as much as possible. For no real reason. I don't think too many people get upset if I drop an F bomb or whatever. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Um, and I'm not trying to make a broad as video as possible. I think they're very niche in what they are. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just holding myself to a weird standard. My point was that even with all that planning, you're still going to run into someone who will just kind of click on your thumbnail absentmindedly and leave a comment without really watching the piece. I got a really mean comment on the Dark Souls video as well, and it just made me laugh because I could tell immediately he hadn't watched the video. And I also didn't understand what a soy boy cook was until I had to go to Urban Dictionary. So that was weird. Yeah.
I don't even know what that is. So
Neither did I. And then I was just like, I don't understand how I'm a cook for talking about Dark Souls and agreeing with your point. That was weird. And yeah.
Gosh.
Hmm.
What was your first video game you ever played?
That is probably Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on my cousin's couch. When I was a kid, my cousins, who we would like see every like Sunday after mass, just to reveal how Irish I am, we'd go back to their house and we'd have like breakfast. But they had a Sega Mega Drive, and I remember just being enamored with Sonic the Hedgehog. Which, if you're a kid and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and 3 are your first game and you're playing with your cousins, is great because Tails is immortal, so you don't have to get upset about dying constantly over and over and over again in a game that's pretty hard, if I'm quite honest.
Who is your favorite video game character?
Uh, oh, that's tough. I don't want to say Spider-Man because he's not technically a video game character.
I
Like,
was going to say that. You were
I
going to
like
probably
that
say Spider-Man.
interpretation of Spider-Man. I think it's really spot on. Um, oh dang, this is tough. You'd think I'd say like Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank because I just did a video on them, but I'm trying to. There's someone. You know what? I think I'm gonna go a bit boring and say Cloud from Final Fantasy VII. I know like you have like a lot of control over him as a player. But I think what's interesting and why that game is still sort of stood out is it's a game of self-discovery. And a lot of times you think you know who Cloud is and why he acts the way he is. Um, and then as the story progresses, you constantly try to like uncover layers about what's actually going on in his head and how fucked up and ultimately lonely he is as an individual. Like he's really, really messed up. Like I think the first 3 discs of the game, he doesn't really know who he is. Um, and like the last sort of like anytime someone says something about Cloud, he kind of takes it as fact, and it's kind of trying to break that cycle of other people telling him what he is and should be and how he should act. And I think that's kind of a pretty powerful lesson for a game that looks like it's made out of Lego bricks. And I don't think it's something that like the remake has nailed necessarily. I think they've kind of lost a bit of the luster of Cloud. But I think he's an interesting character, and I think there's a reason why people have kind of rallied behind Final Fantasy VII all these years.
What would your there's a if you played a game that everyone loved but you didn't seem to like it,
Oh
which one would
no.
it be? But no spoilers. No spoilers for anyone
No
who hasn't.
spoilers, because I can't spoil it, and people are going to give me shit about this. I can't finish it because I really don't enjoy it at all. And I'm going to lose a lot of cred because the game I'm talking about is Skyrim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have played Sky, and a lot of people have said he hasn't even finished it. How can he say he doesn't like it? I played Skyrim at launch on the PS3, and it was the only game I immediately traded back in after a day because I just wasn't getting it. I got it again for the Switch maybe like 5 years later, and I played maybe like 12 hours. Sorry. I played maybe like 12 hours of it, and I had just finished all the Dark Brotherhood, is it? They're the assassin guys. And I was just like, is this it? Look, I don't get why people like it so much. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad game. I've just never really connected with it on any level. I don't really necessarily like the world or the combat, or the role playing aspects feel a bit kind of light to me. But again, if people are like, and people do seem to like Skyrim, like a lot of people have told me it's their favorite game, and I'm like, more power to you. But I feel like I'm the asshole, right? Because everyone seems to enjoy Skyrim, like everybody I've met and I've talked to and whatever. And I don't know if it's just that Bethesda design, because here's a twofer. I also don't really like Fallout 4 or 3. Like the only kind of Bethesda RPG I've really, I like Fallout New Vegas because it's really weird and I kind of get what it's going for. Whereas like 3 and 4 and Skyrim and Oblivion, I don't get them. Again, if people are mad at me, I'm really really sorry. Tell me why you like these games. I'm not saying they're bad, but again, I'm an idiot, so I probably just don't get them.
Don't say that.
Thank you.
That
You
sounds
have to,
so.
because then they're like, "Oh, we need to explain to them," and then they explain to you, and you're like, "Oh, I get it now," and then I can go back to not playing Skyrim because I
uh,
don't like it.
oh, gosh.
I also heard the ooh when I said
Well,
Skyrim.
no, you see, I haven't played Skyrim, so I can't say much. Or Fallout.
Fallout, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, listen, they're fine. I wouldn't say they're 10 out of 10. I'll put it that way. If I
Okay.
can save myself some credibility in the gamerverse.
If you had to live in the world of the last game you played, what world would that be?
Oh, I would be screwed because I've been playing a lot of Metroid Dread recently. I don't know if you've played any of those
I
games.
haven't, no. Okay.
They're they're kind of like platforming survival horror 2D side scroller games.
Oh
And
god.
Dread takes place on a planet that's filled with deadly parasites that can infect people, take over their bodies, and then turn them into mutant killing machines. Um, and only Samus is immune to them. So I'd be dead,
Oh.
like immediately,
Yeah.
which kind of sucks, but you know, at least it's an interesting world.
If you could delete one video game forever, what would it be? No spoilers.
I'm
Again.
not going to say any of the Bethesda games because they're kind of important for a lot of reasons. And I think if you're just like, I'm just going to delete all of them, you're kind of forgetting that, Morrowind built the way for Oblivion, and Oblivion is this like big open world, and it contributes a lot to the sphere of gaming. Again, with like Fallout, whatever, like it completely revitalizes this old series. And without Fallout, I don't get the Outer Worlds, which is a game I actually really really like. Um, hmm, it's kind of a tough one because I'm trying to remember it. Like, even if I don't like the game, like for instance, I don't like MOBAs. Like, I've never really gotten into any of them. But I can't say StarCraft because StarCraft's pretty important to Blizzard, as is Warcraft, and you don't get a lot of these other things because of that. Um, you know what I delete, and I don't think anyone would care whatsoever. Like all of the Bubsy games. I don't think they're important at all. Like, I don't think they ever added anything to platformers or 3D games. I think everybody will unequivocally agree with me that Bubsy sucks. Like, they're bad games. Like, unequivocally bad. So I think I can come, and there's like 4 of them, which is weird. So I think if I could delete Bubsy 1, no one would care. I don't think it would affect gaming as a whole. And if anything, people would probably thank me because they're bad. And then you don't get that terrible Bubsy cartoon, which is a nice knock-on effect, I think.
Do you think PC players are superior over controller players?
I kind of can't. Like, I've never really made it any secret that I adore consoles. Like, I grew up on the Mega Drive. I grew up on PlayStation 1 and Game Boys and stuff like that. I think with PC, like, it's a very specific individual that takes full advantage of a PC. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I think the consumer that they're aiming for is, you do not want to budge on any aspect of your gaming experience. Like, you really do want like a fully tailored experience. Whereas in console games, you just want to play a game that's given to you. So I wouldn't really say any of them are superior as much as they're completely different sort of like mentalities. Because, you know, I've been playing on a PC now for like maybe the last like 3 years, but I still like have like PS5 and Twitch and all that. So I think ultimately, you know, if there's games on either platform that, you know, you're attracted to, I don't think you should hold yourself to the idea that I can only play PC, I can only play console or whatever. Try it all, kids. Accept drugs. Stay in school.
What needs to be done by gaming companies, streaming networks like Twitch for female streamers or female content creators, should I say?
It's interesting. I was reading this and I was thinking about it earlier on, because it's an interesting question. I think the obvious answer is women should toughen up or whatever. You know, like, you get that really detractive sort of statement online, or games aren't for girls. And first of all, that's bullshit, because I think if you disregard the impact women have had on gaming, either via like their representation in it, like, again, we were talking about Metroid, and the big thing about that is at the end of the first Metroid, it's revealed Samus is a woman. You know, she takes off her helmet, and then you're supposed to be like, holy crap, I was a girl the entire time. That's amazing. And then you're kind of disregarding the impact someone like Roberta Williams had, who worked at Sierra and made stuff like King's Quest and Space Quest, or produced Space Quest, I should say, and a few other things. And, you know, there's been this massive movement. And then when you move sort of into, I think, like the 90s with the PlayStation 1 and 2 and sort of early to mid 2000s, you see like this major trend of gatekeeping in it, and I think that we never really moved past that, and then that seeped into companies, which then trickles down into Switch. So it's a question of, because, you know, Twitch is constantly trying to correct itself in what it makes. Like, I don't know if you've seen any of this Amaranth stuff recently, which is like a whole thing in and of itself. You know, like the idea of like hot tub streams. Is it like,
Yeah.
you know, content? Is it not content? Is it just lewd shit? I think you're asking the wrong question there. Where again, you've provided people with this platform where they can do so much, and, you know, it's hard because you're never really going to be able to get rid of all the bad eggs, because people are going to create fake accounts or whatever. But I think, you know, it's how a company presents itself moving forward. Like, how do you, as a platform, deal with people when they do some truly horrible things? And some truly horrible things have happened on Twitch, and yet, you know, I think men have done a lot worse on Twitch than Amaranth. I think that's a great example where she was fully within the confines of what Twitch allowed, and then you have other people who got like drunk on stream and took out a gun, and then next year they're back, which is pretty fucked up. So I think
Or
if
getting raided up by
anything,
police as well, if you think about it.
100%, and like it was happening to everybody, and it was really fucking terrifying. And nowadays, you like again, I don't want it to seem like I'm a major Amaranth fan, but you have to admit, like and I had the same thing with Bella Delphine, where those two individuals, even though they're completely different, are fascinating to me in that they're not like, if you're getting upset, you have to realize that they're not doing anything wrong, and they're not doing anything that's clearly worse. I think if anything, I'm not saying they're making the statement, but they are showing that there's this really sort of, if you're going, oh, that's like fucked up, it's degenerate, it's like, shilling, it's like simping or whatever. People are watching that. Like a massive amount of people are watching that or buying gamer bathwater. So is it a question of, this isn't allowed on the platform because there's a massive kind of want for it?
Mm-hmm.
I guess my main point is they really need to treat people equally, which they haven't really. Hasn't there been like a whole thing of rates that have been led by anti LGBTQ plus groups that just harass people that are like transgender and shit like that on Twitch?
Yes, I
Yeah,
haven't had that, or any of my friends who are in the community have it, but I've heard about it because people are like, "Oh, these spots,
yeah,
we need to ban them."
yeah, it's terrifying, and like the fact that like now like hate has been made automated, like that's
Yeah.
terrifying.
Now, thankfully, I had a moderator that has like found a list of all the names,
Oh,
and they've
badass.
copied it for me, and they've banned them all on my stream.
Yeah,
Thankfully.
and I
So,
think
but
like that's. I mean, it is kind of a sinking ship sort of thing with a bucket of water. Like, I don't think you're ever gonna really be rid of it, but it would be helpful to know definitively what like that platform stance is on it. I don't know,
yeah.
because YouTube's really good about banning your ass of
No,
that shit.
they do very well, don't they? Compared
Oh yeah,
to Twitch.
like I mean, obviously there are like some people that slip through the cracks. Like there's obviously like a Logan Paul where
Oh,
how the fuck is that guy still making content, you know?
I don't like his butter.
Oh yeah, Jake and Logan. I mean, like,
Oh,
I don't think Jake ever did anything that was actually illegal and morally conscionable, like showing a dead body on actual YouTube and laughing at it.
I
Or
just don't like neither of them.
oh no, they're bad eggs, man. I haven't heard anything that they're doing recently. The last time I heard about Logan Paul, he was calling out, I think, Conor McGregor for like a boxing match.
I think
Um,
that's the younger brother. The
One or
younger
the other.
brother
They
one.
basically blend together in my head. Like they're so not a personality that they're just one amorphous blob that is just really equally unpleasant.
I know they were offering $1 million for the match, and I'm like, that's not even worth
It's not
Conor's
really a lot of
time.
money for Conor McGregor, is it? Even if he is like
No.
out there snorting it every weekend, I feel like you make a
Yeah.
lot more by just doing your Budweiser advertisements or
And do you know what's funny?
anything else.
I saw a TikTok today about Conor McGregor, and he met
Yeah.
Johnny Depp in a nightclub during the weekend, and he forced Johnny Depp to drink his whiskey.
Why does he keep doing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just stop.
Mm.
you
Mm.
you don't need to do that. Like it just it kind of screams to me of like that really fragile male ego sort of thing
Yeah.
where they need to be the best and they need to be seen succeeding. And
Yeah.
it's just like you're already huge. It doesn't matter what you do from now. Like it literally does not matter at all. And it's the same with the polls. Like, you have enough money. You don't need to like scam people with these like cryptocurrency scams or anything. Like when is enough enough? Um I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Hmm. Uh, well, have you learned from your mistakes in making your YouTube creation? Or
Um I think think mainly it's to kind of know when to pull back and when to kind of go like full hog into, a bit or a joke, to kind of like look at something. And maybe it's the editor in my brain that's going, do we really need this like 30 seconds here? Do you need this joke here or there? What's kind of self-indulgent. And the other point, is to always, whatever you can do to the best of your abilities, because I'm on like another Reddit for like small YouTube channels, so it's anybody sub 1,000 subs, and part of the way you get, and it's actually really clever how it's set up. You have to provide feedback on videos to get like the subreddit's currency to post. So you need 3 of its currency. So basically, 3 people need to react to the criticism you give. Which is a great idea, because I've been on other ones where people just spam links all day and there's like 0 upvotes and nobody watches anything because they're all just posting there. But if you can make your audio, because that's the thing, when you start out, you're not going to get everything right, because a lot of people, even people that do tutorials on this stuff, they leave out stuff that is obvious to them because they've been doing stuff for years, right? So they're like, oh, well, obviously you don't need to tell someone where to safely download YouTube footage, because we already do that. Like, it took me until I was actually working in my 9 to 5 to find a piece of software that didn't give me malware by looking at it to safely and correctly download YouTube footage. By the way, if anybody's listening and they're curious, UniConverter is the name of it. It's a great piece of software. You can burn DVDs on it as well. That's neither here nor there. I just think that's kind of neat. So it's constantly like, if one person's telling you, I hate this, it's bad, right? Like, one person out of, like, let's say 20 people watch your stuff, and only one person is saying, I hate this, it's bad. If you upload another thing and the same person is saying, I didn't really like the audio, it took me out of it, and then another person saying that, the person that's just saying, I hated it, was terrible, that's not good criticism. The people that are saying, hey, listen, I can't hear you during when you mix in music, it's disorientating. Or, hey, one thing I got, and I didn't add it until I was like a few videos in, was actual like music from the games into it. And the reason I didn't was because I didn't feel comfortable like mixing it, and it saved me time not picking it. But enough people were telling me, hey, you should put music. And then it's just like, okay, that's a legitimate concern, as opposed to someone that goes, you're not funny and I hate you. And you get a lot of that, you're not funny or I hate you, on platforms like YouTube and Reddit or whatever. And it's important to know that there will be the occasional group of people in those comments that are telling you why they may not like it as much as you do, And I think it's a skill to kind of separate yourself and be like, 100% agree with this guy here when he says that. And I knew it was wrong when I went in, and I should have fixed it. And I think if you're not fixing it, or people are constantly telling you, I hit my mic, sorry, that one thing is bad or one thing is good, then, and that's another thing, right? Like, I always try to like establish that I'm giving good critique by going, here's what you're doing right. Because as soon as you see like people giving you like 6 or 7 different pieces of criticism, like, here's what I didn't like, and they're all different, you're going to spiral and you're going to try and change everything. Realistically, you're doing at least one thing right. And I don't want someone to go back to the drawing board and throw out the stuff that I liked or I thought was good. So it's kind of finding that balance. And like I said, finding it has really helped me. Like, I redid all my thumbnails like maybe like a week and a half ago, because people were constantly telling me, I don't want to click on this because it's generic, or I don't get it, or it doesn't make me want to watch. So I spent like 2.5 weeks working on that. And again, immediately I got a comment about it. Someone said, hey, I've noticed that you changed these and they look great. And I think when you take that on board and you implement it and you get it right, there's kind of a little bit of a high to it. Like, fuck yeah, I got it right. Or maybe that's just me.
No, I get that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like when I was doing a podcast, I should say, not the podcast. People would tell us, hey, there's good content content here, but they're like an hour and a half long. Just make it like half an hour to 45 minutes. And as soon as we did that, people didn't really have too much wrong to say. We just didn't have an audience. That was the only downside.
Yeah.
But yeah, podcasts are different beasts altogether.
What would you? Well, I guess you kind of answered it in a way in you talking about that there. But what would be your advice for a new content creator and streamer?
Actually, I usually have a different piece because people are like, how do I start? And this might sound really condescending and vague, but you literally need to make one video, right? You need to make one, and no matter how bad or good it is, or how much you hate it or love it, you need to put it out there, and then you need to start on another one. I think, there's that thing that you don't know you'll like something until you do it like 3 times. And again, after my third one, I was uploading a video every month. I think I only missed one last October for personal reasons. And, people are like, hey, listen, I don't think this is good or whatever. And a lot of times I think people don't really know what they're asking. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, how do I make videos like you? And realistically, I can't tell you how to make videos like me because then I'm going to lose my audience. But if you just literally just put pen to paper, and you'll see whether or not you like it or hate it after like 3 times or whatever. And it's the type of thing where I'm not going to tell someone to rush out and buy like a $200 microphone, because I don't know what people's financial situations are. But if someone, like, I've had a friend who's been trying to start like making videos, and he goes, I just can't do this and that. I'm like, what are you actually looking at right now? Because you're telling me you've done all this stuff and you've done all this prep work, but it sounds I think a bit of tough love usually helps as well. It's just like, you need to actually make it. Because at this point, you're telling me you have a script, you've recorded it, you've done the research, you just need to finish it. Because you're just going to hit a point of diminishing returns where you need to just get it out, because it's never going to be perfect. You know what I mean? Like, you're never going to have like it's shined to a diamond clean. There's always going to be something you don't like about a video. And I think as long as you're addressing that moving forward, that's great. If you can learn something from a video other than like what you're trying to put out there, I think that's really cool. And Lord knows I've done that. Like I said, after the second video, I was just like, I completely bollocks this up. So I need to start again. I need to start fresh. I need to completely redo how I've been doing them. And I think I've kind of gotten into a pretty good flow. And also watch other people, there's that quote, like, copying one person is, what is it? It's plagiarism. Copying several people is research. And I'm no different. Like, I think if you dissect what I'm doing, you can see there's a lot of DNA of various people that I've like watched their videos, and I'm like, I like what they do and how they do it. But I think the important thing is that I'm no one person. Like, there's shades of Nakey Jakey. There's a little bit of JonTron. There's some High Top Films. There's some Game Over Thinker or some Mr. Sunday Movies. And, it kind of can all coalesce into a singular sort of thing. But don't kind of just look at someone and go, hey, I want to be Nakey Jakey, because no one can be Nakey Jakey. He's insane. So that's not something you can emulate. Just try to make videos your way. And if you're going, hey, I like that bit from this guy, but I also like that bit from that guy, you're on the right track. That'd be it.
What's the plan with your stream or YouTube? I should say, not stream. In
601, isn't it? Eventually, I'd like to kind of implement streaming into it. I think right now I'm a little bit scared because it's a different vibe with streaming. It's kind of the kind of way I've seen it is it's like theater acting on camera, where you see a lot of people that come from a theater background are much more confident in TV and film, right? Because there's not that pressure of a bunch of people watching you. And, a lot of people think, that my stuff is very off the cuff. It's not. there's about like a script that has been revised 3 or 4 different times, and has been shined as much as I can. And I can control it in post. I can like help when I stumble or whatever, and make it as good as I can, that I just don't really have when I stream. So it's not really, I'm never going to stream. I think after a certain point, I'm gonna have to. I'd like to, if there was an audience there, to do like a Q&A sort of thing, like an AMA sort of thing. That I think that'd be kind of cool. Because I've got some really nice people in my comment section, like genuinely, like really, really cool people. And I've even had more recently a dude be like, "Hey, I made a video. Will you check it out?" And I know for a fact that this guy has been sending me comments like for 6 or 7 videos, so he's legit. And I'm like, yeah, more than happy to. Let's fucking go, bro. So it'd be cool to kind of stream. As for video wise, what's coming next? I'm working on something that I think is really, really cool. It's been a fucking nightmare to work on, if I'm honest. And if people listen to this and they're in it, because there's a few different like voices I've used in it, you were not the issue. None of you were the issue. The issue was I didn't properly plan this, and it was a real nightmare to do. And I'm in the process of right now where I'm editing it, and I hate it. So again, it's no one's issue but my own, and I need to get out of that headspace. But I genuinely think it's one of them. It's probably different. I'll say that. Like, it's a little bit different, which is probably why it was so interesting to work on. I don't know why I'm hiding it. It's probably going to be done by the time this is out. I'm working on a documentary. So like a short, like a little YouTube documentary on loot boxes. And I got to work with some really cool people, like a few people I've worked with on stuff before. A mate of mine, Marcus, is reading quotes in it. I had a voice actor that I've worked with before called Nicole B. Sings, who's just incredible. Like, I absolutely love working with her. A few workmates and someone I've actually kind of like looked up to on YouTube since I found him. Really nice guy. He didn't have to be a part of this, like genuinely. If he had told me to fuck off, he was more than in his rights to say that. Because I was taking a gamble, and ever since then, he's been super, super cool. Every time I've interacted with him. So yeah. Hopefully, after this, I don't know what I'm doing. Genuinely, I have other scripts ready to go, but I think I might take a knee for a bit. I'm not saying I'm going to miss anything, but I might just kind of detox, because it's not that I haven't written any scripts that I like, but there's just some stuff I kind of want to like take a look at and tweak and change a little bit. And also, I kind of want to just play games. Like, I was playing a Metroid Dread there on Saturday, and the last game I'd bought then was Death Stranding. Have you ever played that?
I haven't, no.
Death Stranding is like, it's from the guy that made Metal Gear Solid, and it was this whole like big deal, and people were like, it's either the worst game ever, it's the best game ever. And I was playing it, and I was just like, nothing this game. It's whatever. It's an interesting sort of like setup system of like a hiking simulator, but it's got a really weird ass story that I don't care about. And I was just like, hey, I can make a video on this. And just the thought of having to play it for like 12 hours or 20 or whatever, I was just like, I can't do it. And then I started playing Metroid Dread, and I was like, this is badass, man. This is great. I'm like, is this what it's like playing games? I'm like, oh boy. So I might just, I might just take a knee. I might just either make a video on something that I really, really like, because there's another script I have that I've probably sat on for like 6 months. And I know if I make it, I'm gonna love every minute of it. But again, it's just like, is there an audience for that? And I've kind of gotten to the point where I don't really give a shit. I'm just gonna make whatever I want. And that's been kind of fun, if I'm quite honest. Because I think one thing people have seen in my videos is that there's no real consistency in what I'm about. Like, for instance, if you watch someone like the Act Man or G Man Lives, they're all into like their first person shooters, right? Like occasionally they might delve into something else, but they're FPS guys. I went from Bioshock, which is an FPS, to I think it was GTA. Then I did another open world, and then somehow down the line I ended up doing Spider-Man and Ratchet and Clank and Ghost of Tsushima and stuff I think is interesting, and I think that's where it shines through. If you're making something you like and you think it's kick ass, fuck it, just make it.
Yeah.
Follow your dreams, kids.
And what? I mean, this is just a question I thought of now. What's your favorite Bioshock game?
I think it's probably contrarian to say, but I think one just perfectly like nails everything. I think it's a super, again, I think if I made like a 15-minute video on it, and it held my attention for that long and it stayed with me. And I think people have asked me about that, and I think I made that out of spite because people were like, oh, what if there was a Bioshock movie? And I'm like, why do you want a movie
I don't
of a
think it would work.
game you've already played?
Yeah.
And we'll
Yeah.
also miss the point. It's the same with the, like, I don't have a problem with the idea of the Last of Us TV series. I would have appreciated it if it wasn't about Joel and Ellie, because as a world, you can go anywhere there, right? Like you can do anything, and it's a pandemic that affects the world. So why wouldn't you make, The Last of Us with two new characters in like Mexico or Alaska or the West or something like that? Just two different characters and two different perspectives, rather than stretching out the game I've already played like back in 2013 into like a 6-part HBO series. I'm sure it's going to be good. Like I love Pedro Pascal. Like that guy could like stab me and I'd apologize to him. He seems so cool. I like him in stuff he's bad in. Like I loved Wonder Woman 84. He's great in it. Oh my god, I would watch party that shit any day of the week. There's just so much I like about that objectively terrible movie. Speaking of, now I got excited because I'm gonna go see Venom, not this weekend but next weekend.
Nice.
So that's gonna be so terribly amazing. I just like terrible stuff.
Was it reviewed really badly, or I haven't seen any of the reviews?
I feel like people are like hot and cold on it. Some people are saying it's like the best rom-com of like the last like 10 years or something like that.
Okay.
And I feel like that's just people clowning on me. Like that can't be a good thing, can it?
No,
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I'll watch anything. Everybody thought Detective Pikachu was going to be bad, and it was incredible.
I loved it. It was great.
Did you see Detective Pikachu? So good.
So good. I loved it.
I was ready to brawl with my friend when he was just like, didn't care for it, and I was just like, you about to catch hands, boy. Like I was ready to fight him in that car park.
I mean, if it was like a really bad review, there's a movie coming out in Ireland, I think this weekend, Dear Evan Hansen, which is a musical theatre.
I've heard such terrible things about that adaptation.
I'm not going to see it because I read the book of the musical.
Because you're a fan. I've seen from your Twitter that you're a musical lover yourself.
I was in Dublin last weekend to see a musical I've been wanting to see in the last 3 years, which was unreal to think that I actually got to go. But it was more I don't particularly think I would go and see this musical the movie's on about. And I read the book and I was like, this is a bit weird.
Yeah, I had the same thing. I was in New York maybe like 2 years ago, and one of the last things I did was I went to go see a show on Broadway. It was incredible. Like if anybody's ever in New York, if you go to Times Square on Sundays, they like sell tickets for like kind of cheap at like that like step stand. And just go to anything because it's gonna be amazing. But we went to see Waitress. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
It's coming on tour to Dublin.
I have tickets for that because I went with my mum in New York, and for her birthday, I think like 2 years ago, I bought like tickets to Waitress, like the original show. Obviously, the pandemic happens. We can't go, and we're going in January. Luckily, I think January or February of next year. So, but someone told me, hey, there's a Waitress movie. And I'm like, I'm sure it's good. because your one obviously wrote and starred in it and directed it. Real passion project sort of thing. I'm sure it's great. I cannot imagine anything better than actually sitting down and watching it. And it's the same with I haven't seen anything of Book of Mormon yet, and I have tickets for that in December. So
I'm not going to see that.
Oh no?
No, I don't particularly. I mean, I've just listened to Hello and that's it. I think it's a bit cheesy, but
Yeah.
I mean, I went to see Six, which is about King Henry's 6 wives. We're
Oh
not going to
wow.
mention Henry. It's all about the women, and it's about kind of female empowerment. And
That sounds badass, man.
It, honest to God, I went and I was in the stalls, which is upstairs, and I was in the front. I got the perfect view of the cast, and it was. I mean, I was going to see it in London in 2019, and I didn't get to see it because it was sold out. It's literally so popular.
Yeah.
And it was honestly the best thing. I cried, which sounds really cringy.
No, I mean when we saw Waitress, the bits of her husband at home, I was actually I was terrified, and I know it's a play and they're just actors and they're just reading from a script, but again, I think that's something that doesn't translate as much because there's a layer of separation, whereas when you're actually there and sitting down, it's incredible, even stuff that I didn't think I would like. I saw Kinky Boots
I saw that too. It's amazing.
year and a half ago. I knew nothing about it. I just knew I had tickets, and I think that's kind of the best way to absorb this sort of stuff. Just go in, sit down, and enjoy it. Just completely sort of just turn your brain off and get into that world. And maybe one day I'll accidentally go to a bad musical. Cats. I think Cats is bad, isn't it?
I wouldn't be seeing that one now, to be fair. I mean, after Six, it's the Headers.
Yeah.
Which I would have loved to gone this week as well. But then what else is coming to Dublin? I mean, Lion King's coming back.
Yeah, we were thinking of getting tickets for that, and then I think someone was just like, it's so passé.
It's a bit long.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But Les Miserables is coming in February, so I might go and see that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, next time I'm over in the UK, because the last 2 times I've been in London, I've always regretted not going to the West End. So next time I go, maybe I'll take in a matinee. You know what? I was kicking myself because the first time I was in London, it was a Sunday. We could have gotten tickets, and School of Rock was on, and I have heard nothing but good things about that production.
It's actually coming to Dublin. Do you know that?
Oh, for real? No, I didn't know that.
It's coming to Dublin. It's coming to June next year.
By the way, if any of my fans, or if I have fans, are listening to this, I bet you didn't know I liked musicals. There's a curveball for you. The weird seller troll that puts anime jokes in his dumb videos about video games likes musicals. There you go, kids. A different shade of grey.
Yeah, no, I mean, Sundays, because I went to London 2019. I remember I wanted to go to another one. I only went to see the one show, but I was tempted to go to another one, even by myself. And Sundays is the quieter day; they're off, so there wasn't as many shows on. So I was like,
just taking a matinee.
Yeah.
Why not?
But I think the only Bioshock game I've ever watched was Bioshock Infinite.
I think Infinite's good. I think it's
a bit fucked up at times, but it's great.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think if I replayed it now, that I've absorbed so much multi-dimensional stuff, I'd probably enjoy it a lot more. As a kid, I was, because that's the thing, right? There's been a lot of stuff that I've approached and bounced off, and a lot of times it's been because of my maturity. Famously, I was just I don't know if you're an anime fan at all.
Not really. I'm trying.
Yeah, it's hard to get into. I'll give you that. I got into it young, and I was mainly into sick Dragon Ball Z and crap like that. And when someone told me, "Hey, you should watch Evangelion," I was like, "What the hell is this shit?" And I didn't get it at all. And it came back to Netflix a year ago with a new English dub. I was just like, I'll give it another chance, and I became obsessed with it because now I get it. I get what it's like to be a 16-year-old kid, and be like just angsty and feel like a piece of shit all the time. And why like that's not exactly a healthy mindset to be in. And then it was kind of the perfect time to get into Evangelion as well, because you had like the Netflix series and then they brought back the two movies, and then like Amazon Prime finished off like the series. And I mean, if anybody is interested, I don't think you should start on Evangelion at all. It's a really weird piece of media that's really sad and depressing. And despite the fact that every single poster looks like it's about giant robots, it's not about giant robots. It's about depression. And it's pretty heavy. And again, like the same thing with Bioshock, like I enjoyed like the bam bam shooty parts, and then like looking back on it now, uh that I'm more mature and, you know, having an appreciation for like the works of like Karl Marx. I'm not a communist, I'm just saying he wrote some good books, and I think you can't really not read them and then just say you're a fucking communist. You kind of have to open yourself to other forms of thinking. That's my point. And it's the same with Ayn Rand. Like the entirety of Rapture is like a Randian nightmare, and it shows why that system of government doesn't work. And I think if you're not looking at that piece and going, oh yeah, that's a pretty weird way of living. And again with Infinite, where it's like, this is trippy and it's multi-dimensional, and I kind of understand what the point of it is now, or I'd like to think I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
And
good game.
what would advice would you give to yourself who was starting to do YouTube all over again?
Oh, that is a tough one, because we'd probably be looking at me when I was like 16. I've always been a big proponent of when people are like, would you do it again? I'm like, listen, no. However, it's important that I did do it. It's like I can't undo it, and I don't think I should be allowed to in any which way. So I guess probably just go, listen, you're gonna fuck up, you're gonna get things wrong, or you're not gonna like what you make. But it's important that you do that, because eventually at some point you'll make something you don't completely despise. And that's pretty G. Which, you know, yeah, I think people are like, you need to get everything right the first time you do it. And I would say there's a lot more to learn in failure than success, for as pretentious as that sounds.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me on. I had a great time. What a fantastic way to spend an evening.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no worries. I look forward to when it comes out. Thanks for having me on, Shay, and letting me ramble.
Do you have any do you want to share your socials to
Yeah,
anyone?
totally. I am at Kev_Greene on Twitter. You can also follow me on the YouTube. It's just Kevin Greene. Look up The Brilliance of Bioshock if you want to see where I started. And Ratchet and Clank being better or being good enough, I think, is the name of the video if you want to see my most recent stuff. And look out for my documentary on loot boxes. I think it's going to be pretty good, and I hope people don't yell at me for making fun of FIFA. That's a
Hopefully
legitimate
not. Hopefully not.
concern I've had.
Oh really? Oh gosh.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of FIFA fans. I'm like, oh, this could
No,
go
that's
sideways
true.
real
That's
quick.
true. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
No problem. No problem at all. Thank you so much, Kevin, for doing the podcast. I do appreciate it, and don't forget to follow him on his social media. And also, I do want to apologize. Sorry if you heard crackling. There was interference in the internet on Discord as we were recording the podcast, so I couldn't do anything about that. Neither we couldn't do anything about it at all. But just please don't forget to follow Kevin and check him out on his YouTube content. Person, look at his YouTube video of the Spider-Man. It's so well made and so well edited, and he was very well spoken tonight, so even though he was nervous, he did so well. So please check him out. Thank you so much for listening, I guess, listening this week's podcast episode. With that, I'll see you all next week. Don't forget to check me out on my own socials at SheilannO on Twitter and on Twitch at SheilannO Gaming for Instagram and anything else. Please don't forget also to review this on is it Apple Podcasts as well, and share it on around in your socials. It would mean a lot, as it would help the podcast be more noticeable. And with that, I'll see you guys all very soon. Have a lovely day, night, evening or week, wherever you are. I'll see you guys all next week. Bye.